Well, hi there.
Hey.
Happy Sunday.
Happy
Friends,
Sunday.
lovers, thank you for joining us. This is 5 Minutes with Robert Nasir,
Yes.
with my co-host, Amy Nasir.
Hi there. I'm wearing my invisible hat today. As you can see, it's very lovely. It's made in the village. And otherwise, it's known as my non-material tiara. Yes, my non-material tiara.
That's right. Well, how did you earn that? Maybe we shouldn't get into that. But yes, I'm here with my better half, and it is Sunday, April 26th, the 117th day of 2020. There are 243 shopping days until Christmas, and 188 days until Halloween.
Halloween. Thank you very much.
On this date, 64 years ago, this was just 64 years ago,
Yeah? What was 64 years ago?
the trials for Jonas Salk's new vaccine against poliomyelitis were started.
Wow.
That was 64 years ago.
That was just the trials.
Holy smoke. That was 10 years before I was born.
Wow.
Polio was still a thing. It took 1 year for the trials to be completed on April 12th, 1955. They declared it a success and rolled it out.
Yes.
Also, at least in the United States, today is National Pretzel Day.
Yay.
So what's your favorite pretzel? Tell us in the show in the comments here.
At Facebook or YouTube.
Yes, we are monitoring your comments.
Yes, we are.
At least we're supposed to be.
Hi, Catherine. Hi, Fernando. Hi, Jennifer. Hi, Rebecca. Awesome. You guys are the best.
I see YouTube just came up on my machine here.
Yeah.
So we'll find out what folks have to say. Tell us what is your... Actually, Jennifer already told us she has pretzels in her cupboard right now with, I think she said, with cheese in them.
That's delicious.
That's what I need. Although my favorite is still probably a soft pretzel.
I love soft pretzels.
At a movie theater.
In a movie theater.
I want to be in a movie theater.
With cheese.
When can we go to a movie theater? We're going to put the projection screen out in the backyard and make a drive-in in our garage door.
Yes, we've got a white garage door. We're going to set it all up with a bonfire, so...
That's right. According to History.com, the Catholic Church played a leading role in the early history of the pretzel. In the 7th century, the Church dictated stricter rules governing fasting and abstinence during Lent. Pretzels, made of a simple mixture of water, salt, and flour, were an ideal food to consume during Lent, when all types of meat, dairy, and eggs were prohibited. But what about the cheese they dip them in? What about the chocolate that they covered them in?
Oh, such good questions.
I can't even.
Oh, hello, Paula. Thanks for joining us. And Mary Aline says, I have no favorite pretzel. I guess they're all good in Mary Aline's book.
That's right. Pretzel egalitarianism is on the rise, although pretzels don't rise that much. So for the podcast of the week, we are extending out from last session when we talked about OCON 2019. What we're listening to this week is Gena Gorlin's session.
Oh, so good.
From OCON 2019, Earning Your Own Trust, the Psychology of Honesty.
Yes.
A link to that will be in the show notes. The description on YouTube is this. Damn, where's the cough button? That's not part of the description.
I made him do that.
She did. She's psychic. This talk discusses the meaning and importance of being honest, especially with oneself.
Yes.
Why it matters, why it can be hard, and how to make it habit. Dr. Gorlin offers tools for introspecting the difference between reason and rationalizing, for staying selfishly committed to facts even when it hurts, and for correcting habits to the contrary. It's an outstanding talk, and after you get done listening to us tonight, you should go listen to that talk. Again, it will be in the show notes. Excuse me.
Yeah.
We do need a cough button.
I have water here.
What are you... Oh, you're handing this to me. I thought you were just...
Yeah, and in the meantime, Fernando is talking about a Catholic connection to pretzels.
Yes.
Maybe you could explain to us what the Catholic connection is.
Well, I think he's referring to what I just said, right?
Oh, I guess so.
Yes, I
Yeah.
like pretzels despite the Catholic connection. That's right, because we take all the good stuff out of tradition and leave the hooey behind.
And Mary Aline says she doesn't like pretzels because of the Catholic connection.
Ah. Actually, that may be the premise behind my next book. I'm seriously considering writing a book on the kernel of truth, although I'll probably call it instead charitable interpretations of well-loved hooey.
Oh, it sounds very nice.
It's a very Robert kind of thing to do.
Yes.
If there are things that you do that are nonsense, don't worry, I'll find the good bit that can justify it. Or if I can't, I'll shame you. I mean, I'll
I think there's shaming going on in the comments here because some people like mustard and some people think it's the devil's sauce.
Unacceptable. I mean, that's great.
I think there's room enough for values for everybody.
I would certainly think mustard could go on a soft pretzel.
Yeah.
Anything but pineapple. Oh, wait, that's pizza.
I bet somebody out there would like pineapple on a pretzel.
Somebody would. I think I know who that is, too. So the word of the day and our theme for the show is trust, and specifically trust and forgiveness. That, of course, relates to the talk that Gena gave, but this is something that I've been writing about, have written about on Facebook, and is just ripe for insights. Hopefully by the time we're done with these 5 minutes, you'll agree. So for a definition, we start with the Oxford dictionaries. Trust is the belief that somebody or something is good, sincere, honest, etc., and will not try to harm or trick you.
Ooh, or defraud you.
That's trust.
Or light you on fire.
And the second definition, both of these relate, the belief that something is true or correct or that you can rely on it. So I define trust as, this is your official Robert Nasir definition.
Oh, listen up.
To know someone well enough to have confidence in what they will or won't do. In that regard, I think trust is a kind of knowledge. Now, I've been told in response that trust is a choice, and that's true, but it's not an arbitrary choice. Properly, it's a choice made dispassionately, based on knowledge gained by experience. You trust someone not because you hope they're trustworthy, but because you have reason to believe that they are.
Aha.
So in that sense, trust is a kind of knowledge.
Yes.
It is unique in that it's an evaluation of character.
Right.
And so surprises are possible because people have free will.
Oh, free will. However, I should interject if you haven't already covered it already, but that knowledge that you gain from understanding another person is also what kind of mental processes do they most often use? Are they, what do they base their actions on? Do they base their actions through their own, the evidence of reality, or do they base them on perhaps their emotions or what other people tell them to believe? So you have to kind of understand what their method of thinking is as well.
Yes, and that's what I mean by judge their character.
Yes.
Their character is their behavior, their choices over time.
And by the way, we have Nick. We've got Jen just joined us. Hey, Jen. And John. So hello, everybody.
So my point is, you know as much as you know. Boy, this is a theme that's been coming up this week. You may not know everything, but you do know as much as you know.
Yes, you may not know everything. Things may actually be uncertain in some areas of life.
That's right. And yet, you know as much as you know, and you act based on that limited knowledge. Boy, how many people have come to me this week and said, gee, we don't know everything about what's going on, and therefore we don't know anything. And everything everybody says is hooey.
Right.
Which is absurd. But
Or we must be absolutely certain about everything that we know right now, and if you don't believe exactly what I think, then you're wrong.
Well, there is that, too. So back to trust. To extend your trust to someone is a judgment based on your knowledge of their past actions. And because their actions are volitional and value-laden, there's a powerful spiritual, psychological, emotional component to trust. And that's why I say it's a type of knowledge. It's not just knowledge. But at root, to trust someone is to have enough knowledge to have reasoned confidence in what they will do.
And Jennifer says, Mr. Spock said, you can never guarantee the actions of another. One can take an educated guess.
That is logical.
That is logical.
I don't know that Spock was ever logical. Actually, he was logical, but he was also emotional.
He did the best he could with his emotional baggage.
That's right. Speaking of which,
yeah,
it is possible to let your emotions interfere with your evaluations.
Oh, yes.
To trust someone more than is rational. You might trust them because you wish they deserved the trust.
Right.
Because you want to be charitable.
Or
out of love.
Or you just want them to be somebody that you would value otherwise. And you ignore these irrational or mean or hurtful actions.
Yes, you might want to be charitable out of love, but you might also want to be charitable out of guilt or other motives. Mm-hmm. But this kind of trust is a lie. To yourself, worst of all.
Yes. Yep.
In fact, you really don't trust them.
Yeah.
You know, or should know better, but you're fooling yourself.
You're fooling yourself.
You're fooling yourself. So, one of the insights that I had is that forgiveness is a similar concept.
Okay.
To forgive is to know that someone has realized that and accepted that they've done something wrong, that they've atoned for it where it's possible, and that they're unlikely to commit the same act again. And that last bit, they're unlikely to commit the same act again. Well, that judgment, like trust, is a type of knowledge based on what you know about their character. Yeah. As with trust, you can extend forgiveness beyond this rational analysis, but on some level it is a lie. You don't make a wrong into a right simply by saying, oh, that's all right, I forgive you.
It doesn't mean much if you do it that way.
Well, forgiveness essentially needs to be earned in advance.
Yes.
Before you can say to somebody, I forgive you, you need to actually know, oh, they are forgivable.
They are, yes,
they
exactly.
should be forgiven.
Right.
It's not a charity, it's not alms, it's not something you extend so much as something you recognize.
Now, Nick here has a good question. I think it's relating back to trust. He said, you said trust should be dispassionate, so a kind of stoicism?
That's a great question, but I would say no.
Yeah.
By my understanding of Stoicism.
Yes.
That said, the Stoics have so many good things to say about being dispassionate, about being rational, that I get a lot out of reading Stoic philosophy.
Right, Marcus Aurelius. Yep.
And so the short answer is sure. The longer answer is no, not really. It's a form of rationality, not Stoicism. I would say it's a form of objectivism.
You can actually be objective with your thoughts and actions and evaluations and value judgments, really?
That's right. Oh. You can be dispassionate about the most passionate things. In fact, ultimately, you have to be dispassionate in the pursuit of your passions.
Yes.
It's sort of an inversion of, now I forget who said that science was the passionate search for dispassionate truth. But I certainly advocate that. Yes, give it to us in the comments here.
Yes, if anybody knows, what's the word again, or what's the phrase again?
The passionate pursuit of dispassionate truth.
Aha, yes.
May have butchered that a bit, but somebody will know where that comes from.
So actually, Jen is chiming in. She says, I was about to say, in regard to children, that you can forgive while also expecting a repeat of transgressions with regard to children.
Yes.
And was wondering our point of view on that. And then Robert pointed out that the person needs to be forgivable. And I think maybe as a parent, the benevolent thing is to see your children as forgivable.
Yes, we need to do a whole show on that because...
Yes. Great point, Jen. Thank you.
At some point, I will do a show, and you will love this, because I'm going to do a show on unconditional love.
Oh, that shall be interesting.
And this goes back to my idea of charitable interpretations of well-loved hui.
Yes.
Because unconditional love is a contradiction in terms. Mm-hmm. Love is the highest form of valuing. How can that be unconditional? That would imply that there is no value. There's no judgment. There's no evaluation. Right. Exactly. But the concept does apply the way most people mean it, and without the hui thrown in. And one place it absolutely applies is to your children. And it's not that you're not judging your children and that you're not just with your children. It's that your children are such a high value to you that no matter what they do short of going out and killing somebody, they can never change that.
Yeah.
Now, I'm a parent, and I have exactly that relationship with my daughter. I'm very judgmental. I'm very harsh with people. I don't judge my daughter much because she's so amazing and so important to me that even if she ever did anything wrong, it really doesn't much matter. And there are other relationships like that besides your children. I suspect that for most of us, our romantic relationships reach that level. Mm-hmm. At least one would hope. So it's the question is well taken, but it does make me think, oh my God, I've got to do that show on unconditional love.
Okay.
I didn't give a definition of forgiveness, so I stole one from Berkeley. They have a magazine called Greater Good. Right away, all of you philosophy types should be suspicious of that. I certainly am.
I could really buy into that one.
Yeah. Well, greater good. Greater than what? Well, greater than you. Greater than your individual selfish. Well,
let's start off by insulting the reader.
Exactly. But their definition was useful. Psychologists generally define forgiveness as a conscious, deliberate decision to release feelings of resentment or vengeance toward a person or group who has harmed you. Now, what they throw in is, regardless of whether they actually deserve your forgiveness. And I kind of loved and hated that both, because, again, I've made the point, you can offer somebody forgiveness despite the facts, despite whether they deserve it or not. In a sense, though, that's not really forgiveness.
Right.
And it's a lie. It's a lie, first and foremost, to yourself, and also to that other person. But my point is, forgiveness, just like love, is not something you primarily give. It's something you do. I think of Gail Winan telling Dominique, I love you, and it doesn't matter whether you love me back, because you're not even important in this. The love I experience, that's primary. Love is something you do.
Yeah.
I'm not quoting or talking about Winan now, but love is something that you do. It's something you experience.
Oh my gosh,
it's a value that you experience. And
yeah.
That's why you can have unrequited love. Now, that sounds sad when you put it that way, but you can love a hero.
Yes.
You can love a stranger who you know about. Because that's what love is to hold something as the highest of values, an integrated value.
Yes.
A value that touches your deepest values. I was going to say, that hits you at your core, at your deep. I don't want to be that inexact, but
right.
That's what love is.
That's such a great point. That, oh my goodness, what a wonderful thing to pull out of the fountainhead.
I mean, I will love on Amy. I will say nice things to her. Those kinds of things, but
say nice things.
But the giving of love to somebody,
yes.
As magnificent, as important, as outstanding, as wonderful as that is, that comes after actually feeling the love, experiencing the love.
I have so very much felt that experience of, I don't care if you love me back, but I love you, and it's an interesting thing. It really is.
It is that.
And before you can, of course, we go back to Howard Rourke and the Fountainhead. To say I love you, one must first need to say the I. And that, it's very true. Oftentimes when you do feel love for somebody or trust for somebody.
It's not about you. It's about me. Right. I usually say that when we're breaking up with somebody, but no, it's not about you.
Yeah,
it really is.
It is really about me. It's
yes.
really about the love, the valuing that I have for somebody and the reasons I have that valuing for them.
Yes. Mm-hmm. We could tie that to our episode on gratitude. Because when you experience gratitude, it's not always something that you need to pay back. It's simply a value that you experience.
Yes.
Yes. That's why you can have gratitude for life and the world and things that can't earn your gratitude.
Yeah. And I just wanted to say welcome to Linda, to Gary, to Kim. Hey, thanks for joining us, Linda.
Maybe
and Linda's art auction held her up, so that's okay.
Oh goodness, yeah. I was doing notes for this show, and I missed that, but I hope it went well.
We hope
Either
it went
way,
well.
We always tell everybody, you should be at Cordair.com, Cordair.com, because the kind of spiritual values that you need to get through challenging times, they're all there.
They're all there.
I'm going to go back to my notes.
Excellent.
Or we might end up taking more than 5 minutes. Forgiveness is like love in this way. It's not primarily something you give. It's something you do. And you don't do it to another person. You do it within yourself, within your own consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
Because what you're doing is achieving a degree of knowledge and a consequent state of mind. Mm-hmm. Sure, you give love to somebody, but well before that, you have to actually love them. Mm-hmm. So ditto forgiveness. Sure, you can tell somebody you forgive them, but first, in your own mind, you must actually experience the fact that, despite what they've done, you evaluate them as warranting a positive evaluation and a second chance. Not out of generosity or pity or
that.
duty,
no,
but because of who and what they actually are.
Mm-hmm. Yes. That's so good. So do you have more?
Well, I'd love to hear more of what you're thinking.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so basically, a lot of people say to forgive, you need to, you need to forgive somebody for yourself, for your own emotional well-being. What does this even mean?
And I'm so glad you brought that up.
So it's, I think this is what this means, because I've had to kind of go through this process before where I have to let go of my resentment, let go of my hurt and anger, because all it did was really hurt me. I kept harming myself through it, and that's not a good position to be in. So what do? And I think my answer to that is that you forgive yourself, first of all. You forgive yourself for, because at that moment you think to yourself, well, how on earth could I have been, how could this person have been of value to me all these years, or however, what a horrible mistake that was, and then you start kind of berating yourself and kind of questioning your own judgment.
How could they have had free will?
Well, it's not just that, but one of the things I find in forgiving other people is to remember, and this is really, really hard, to really remember and to feel like you did back then when you valued them, why you liked them in the first place, why you loved them in the first place, what character qualities or characters of them, what exactly did you really do love about them, and that's really difficult, because you don't want to go back and say, well, that so-and-so bleepy blankety blank, person.
The constancy of emotions.
So angry, so hurt, and then you have to go back and ask yourself what was actually good about them. And that's really difficult to do. But It can be done, and I think it should be done. Not just, not as a practice in self-torture, okay, although it will feel that way, but as a practice of being integrated and to know what your values were and are, and to get to the point and say, Because oftentimes when somebody does something crummy to you, unjust to you, mean to you, hurtful to you, oftentimes it's not even about you. It's not about them wanting to lash out at you. It's them expressing how little respect they have for themselves or how little love they have for themselves. And it's an interesting thing, because I oftentimes I go back and I look back on those experiences and I think they don't love themselves, and they're not lovable because they don't want to be lovable. And that is not my fault. That is not even having to do with my evaluation of them. It's just what they choose. And that's something that I can't get around. But I do wish them well. I hope that they grow. I hope that they actually learn to love themselves. I hope they learn to be honest with themselves, especially. So that's my take on that.
Well, we talked about the constancy of emotions when we talked about love. And one of my important life lessons, I don't know if somebody taught me this or I figured it out myself, but you should never forget how you feel about the people you love. Mm-hmm. Even when you don't, in fact, especially when you don't feel the emotion. Mm. That's why I say love is an evaluation. It's not just, oh, I feel love. Well, you do feel love, and that feeling is important. That's the reward. That's the reason.
Yep.
But love itself is an evaluation. And even when you don't feel the emotion, you must never forget the evaluation. That'll get you through some hard times.
Yeah. Do you need water?
I guess I do.
Water is good for you, but not in large quantities.
The Moonlight Bootleggers 5K trail run
best time
with
ever.
moonshine and bluegrass.
One of the best experiences I've ever had is running in the dark on hilly terrain.
That was a good 5K.
It's great.
You can do that again, if and when. So my recap and takeaway.
Yes.
Trust and forgiveness should be taken as seriously and applied as objectively as your other knowledge and your other values. Mm-hmm. Because at root, that's what trust and forgiveness are. Knowledge and values.
Well said, Mr. Nasir.
Well, thank you.
Mm-hmm. And I just want to say, hey, Kayla. Hey, Rob. We got to get back on the guitar, Rob.
Yeah, we do.
Dave and Dale. Hello, everybody.
So.
Yeah.
Lots of shout-outs.
Yes.
The Post-it note of the week. Because every week we have a Post-it note that I ask you to put on your bathroom mirror, on your refrigerator, someplace where you will see it, and it will remind you throughout the week of an important thing you should do or learn.
Yeah.
Well, this week, and it's funny that you mentioned resentment.
Yeah.
Amy has not seen this.
No, I have not.
Post-it note of the week says, resentment is like drinking poison and then waiting for the other person to die. And this relates to your homework.
Yes.
So your homework is to think of an instance in your own life. You know, we always have homework. Think of an instance in your own life of trust and of forgiveness. And ask yourself if you applied the concepts objectively, rationally, dispassionately, and in a way that serves your ends. And if so, great. You can sit comfortably happy, satisfied in the knowledge that you're doing that right. If not, if there's anything that about your response that you think fell short, then ask yourself if there's anything you can do to line things up, to tweak your response.
Yep. Check your premises.
To resolve that disparity.
Check your premises.
And so Amy brought up something earlier. In forgiveness, forgiving and forgetting are two different things.
Yep.
You don't need to forgive in order to stop carrying the baggage of a past violation. Or I should say most people don't. Some people do. Some people have a psychology such that they can't let things go unless they do a forgiveness ritual or resolution.
Or lots of journaling.
Or lots of journaling. Well, journaling's always a great idea.
Yes.
But I would encourage you to rethink that and see if you can do it a different way, because I'm a big fan of forgiving when it's warranted. I'm a big fan of forgetting when it's useful.
Yeah.
And I'm a big fan of rending those two completely asunder and separating the concepts completely. Mm. There are people I will never forgive and I never think about. And I have no baggage. There's no hurt in the back of my psychology saying, oh, I never forgave that person. No, my goal when there's a violation against me, unless there's something specifically I need to do about it, I've said this before, is to put that person in my rearview mirror.
Yes.
And then watch them dwindle away to that point where I can't even see them anymore. And I just don't care. Now, sometimes justice demands more action than that. But most of the time it really doesn't. The biggest penalty, the biggest punishment I've imposed upon people who've done me wrong is they don't get to be in my life anymore.
Yep.
And that's it. I'm done. So, take forgive, take forget, separate those two. Do what's rational, what's right, what's appropriate to the circumstance. Resentment is like drinking poison and then waiting for the other person to die.
And I believe that was the gentleman from South Africa who said that, Nelson Mandela, I believe.
I think you may be right.
Yep. And Jen Casey says, but I don't think of you.
There you go.
And hello, Sandy and Ricardo.
Yes. And incidentally, if anybody has no issues with past forgivenesses, trust issues, resentments, my other Post-it note in my downstairs bathroom mirror says, another adventure begins. Mm-hmm. So if you want something lighter and more cheerful, put that on your mirror. See what that does to you for a week. Why 1 week? Because 1 week from right now, we'll be back with another one.
Oh my gosh, we will. For sure. And Linda says, what if every episode ended with a little Nasir music?
We thought about that. I guess we have to do it.
Okay.
I'm not really ready to do it right now.
No? I hand
I'd
Robert a guitar and he'll
have
just
to go
instantly
off frame
play.
Again.
I can get it for you.
No, don't. You've got a laptop in your lap. You're looking over everybody's
Next
comments.
time we will have that.
Maybe I'll once I'm ready for bed and I've got my night robe on, like I did a couple times recently, I'll just get it and play some. But I want you to come with me and play some music with me. Amy can play a little guitar and she can sing so much better than me. So we'll see if we can get a little Amy Nasir music.
Catherine says, Catherine, what about somebody like Trump? Can you even allow yourself to think about him? Who's Trump? Do you know who this Trump guy is?
Yeah, I used to play euchre and pinochle.
Yeah.
And Jaxer Bowers, and you declare Trump at the beginning of each hand.
Oh.
And that's all I know or care about Trump. Has it been 5 minutes yet?
I think it has.
So reminders, which means get in your last minute comments here because we're trying to wrap up here. Reminders, the show notes, links to everything we talked about, and I think there's only one or two this time, will be in the show notes section of the video. This video, and all of our past videos can be found at youtube.com/Robert Nasir and facebook.com/Robert Nasir. Aw, hi Annie. And
Bye, Annie.
If you want to support the show financially, go to patreon.com/Robert Nasir.
Yes.
Or send me a message and I'll send you a PayPal email address. Mm-hmm. And thank you so much to the people who have already joined my Patreon, our Patreon.
We feel loved and lovable, and we feel that you're lovable.
It's the best.
There you are.
And these are the first small steps to taking over the world. And making the world safe.
Yes. By
for charitable interpretations of well-loved hooey.
and trusting everybody because everyone's rational. And
that's right. I absolutely trust you all to do the right thing.
Yes.
You're awesome.
Yes.
And thank you so much for joining us. This has been 5 Minutes with Robert Nasir, and I wish you each success, flourishing, trust, and forgiveness if necessary, and love.